Our story this morning is called The Gates of Paradise, or The Monk and the Samurai. It's from a very long time ago, maybe as long ago as 300 years, and it comes from the Zen Buddhist tradition in Japan. We found it in lots of places on the internet, and it got onto the internet through books written by storytellers and Western Buddhists, and to those storytellers and teachers from a collection of stories from as long ago as the 13th century, translated in the 1930s by two men, a Japanese Rinzai Zen Buddhist monk named Nyogen Zenzaki, and an American poet who loved and learned from Zen Buddhism his whole life, named Paul Reps. When a story is this old and has traveled this far, there are many versions of it. I hope you will enjoy this one. Hakuin sat by the edge of the road. He was a monk. With his eyes closed, his legs crossed, and his hands folded in his lap, he sat in deep meditation. Suddenly, his zazen was interrupted by the harsh and demanding voice of a samurai named Nobushige. "Old man, I'm told that you know the secrets of this world and beyond. Teach me about heaven and hell." At first, as though he had not heard, there was no perceptible response from the monk. But gradually he began to open his eyes, the faintest hint of a smile playing around the corners of his mouth, as the samurai stood there waiting impatiently, growing more and more agitated with each passing second. "You wish to know the secrets of heaven and hell," replied the monk at last. "You who are so unkempt, you whose hands and feet are covered with dirt, you whose hair is uncombed, whose breath is foul, whose sword is all rusty and neglected, you who are ugly, and whose mom dresses you funny, you would ask me of heaven and hell?" Nobushige uttered a vile curse. He drew his sword and raised it high above his head. His face turned crimson, and the veins on his neck stood out in bold relief as he prepared to sever the monk's head from his shoulders. "That is hell," said Hakuin gently, just as the sword began its descent. In that fraction of a second, the samurai was overcome with amazement and awe and compassion and love for this gentle being who had dared risk his very life to give him such a teaching. He stopped his sword in mid-flight, and his eyes filled with grateful tears. "And that," said the monk, "is heaven." I wonder how the samurai Nobushige knew to be grateful for the teachings Hakuin offered him, instead of continuing to indulge his anger. I wonder how the monk Hakuin knew what to say to teach Nobushige this lesson. I wonder what you are grateful for today. I wonder what you can learn from that gratitude.